Martin Pike thought he was the king of Oak Ridge High. You know the type, cheap haircut, loud laugh, thinks bullying is a personality trait, and when the new kid walked in, Martin just knew he had fresh meat to toy with. But here's the kicker. Jacob Daniels wasn't just some quiet transfer student. Oh no, this kid walked in with the calm of a monk and the posture of someone who could break your wrist before you even blinked. Still, Martin couldn't resist. First, a shove in the hallway. Then the racial insults started flying. Farm boy, ape, even coffee-colored loser. Classic coward moves. The hallway buzzed with fake laughter, but deep down, everyone felt it. That storm was coming. And Rowan, the small, hunched kid Martin had tormented for years, he watched Jacob's silence like it was something holy. For the first time, Rowan felt a flicker of hope, because Jacob wasn't scared. He was just waiting. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Now, back to the cafeteria showdown. Jacob had barely set foot inside Oak Ridge when the whispers started. 18, tall and quiet. He walked like someone who already knew where he belonged. Students gawked, some sneering, some curious, while teachers barely lifted their eyes. But Martin? Oh, Martin noticed immediately. Leaning against the lockers with his little crew, smirk plastered on his face, he zeroed in on Jacob like a wolf spotting a rabbit. Except this rabbit didn't run. Jacob adjusted the strap of his backpack and kept walking, calm, steady, controlled. No eye contact, no stumble. It wasn't arrogance, it was composure. And that's exactly what ticked Martin off. So of course, Martin shoved his shoulder into Jacob, knocking his books to the floor. The hyenas laughed on cue, phones shot up to record, because humiliation is always content, right? But Jacob? He crouched down, gathered his books one by one, and stood without a word. No anger, no flinch. Just calm. And that silence? Oh, it cut deeper than a punch. Scared, Martin sneered, trying to convince himself he was still in charge. But Rowan, standing off to the side, pressed against the lockers. He saw the truth. Jacob wasn't scared. He was waiting. And that waiting? That was scarier than any fist. The hallway incident was just the opening act. By late morning, Oak Ridge High was buzzing. Everyone was whispering about the new kid who didn't flinch when Martin Pike tried his usual stunt. Usually, a shove from Martin was the end of the story. Kids scattered, bowed their heads, and prayed he didn't notice them again. But Jacob? He walked away like nothing happened. That silence made Martin look weaker than anyone dared say out loud. Rowan noticed it too. He'd been crushed under Martin's games for years. His hunched shoulders told the whole story. But when Jacob walked past, calm as ever, Rowan's chest tightened with something he hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe Martin Pike wasn't untouchable after all. The day rolled on, classes dragging, but the tension was everywhere. Students whispered across desks, phones buzzing with hallway clips. In math, Rowan nervously slid a note toward Jacob. "He's ruined every year for me." Jacob read it without blinking, then wrote back, "Not this time." 3 words, written like they were carved in stone. Rowan's hand shook. Nobody talked back to Martin. Nobody. And yet this stranger had just promised it. When the lunch bell rang, the cafeteria became the stage. Trays clattered, sneakers squeaked, voices buzzed, but the current under it all was electric. Martin sat with his crew, laughing louder than usual, pounding his tray like a drum to remind everyone he was still in charge. But his eyes, they kept darting across the room, scanning for Jacob. Because what good is a crown if one kid refuses to bow? Rowan sat near Jacob, picking at his food, whispering, "He's not letting this go." Jacob set his fork down, calm as ever. "I know." Just 2 words. And Rowan believed him. Across the room, Martin's jaw tightened. He needed a show, something public, something humiliating. His eyes landed on a half-empty cup of iced coffee. He grabbed it, condensation dripping, and stood up. "Watch this," he muttered to his crew. The cafeteria slowed. Conversations dimmed. And with every step Martin took, the room tilted toward chaos. Martin strutted across the cafeteria like he owned the place, iced coffee in hand, and every step was pure theater. His crew trailed behind like backup dancers who didn't know the choreography. nervous but too scared to break rank. Students leaned out of their seats, phones ready because Oak Ridge High lived for moments like this. Rowan's stomach sank. "He's coming," he whispered, clutching his tray. Jacob barely glanced up. "Let him." Calm. Simple, like he was inviting the storm. Martin stopped at Jacob's table, his smirk stretched too wide. Without a word, he tipped the cup. The freezing liquid poured over Jacob's head, dripping down his hoodie in streams. The cafeteria erupted. Gasps, laughter, shouts. Every screen in the room raised to catch it. For Martin, it was pure triumph. He spread his arms like a cheap magician finishing his trick. But Jacob didn't move, didn't shout, didn't shove. He just wiped his face with his sleeve, stood slowly and stared at Martin. That stare? It was colder than the coffee, unblinking, calm, deadly. "You done?" Jacob asked. 4 words, quiet, steady, sharper than a knife. The cafeteria froze. Even Rowan held his breath. Martin's grin faltered. His crew shifted uneasily. For the first time, it wasn't Jacob who looked out of place. It was Martin, the self-proclaimed king, standing exposed with coffee stains on his crown. The whispers hit instantly. "Why isn't he fighting back?" "Did you see his eyes?" "He's not scared at all." Phones stayed high, but the laughter sounded forced now, shaky. Martin forced a laugh of his own, muttering, "Yeah, I'm done." But his voice cracked and the crack spread through the room like wildfire. Rowan leaned toward Jacob, eyes wide. "You didn't even fight. You already shook him." Jacob picked up his fork again, calm as if lunch hadn't been interrupted by a spectacle. "Sometimes that's enough," he said, but everyone knew it wasn't over. Martin's pride had been bruised in front of the whole school, and bruised egos don't heal quietly. Oak Ridge High could feel it. The storm hadn't passed. It had only just begun. The next day, Oak Ridge High was electric. The cafeteria stunt had gone viral overnight. Martin Pike dripping coffee while Jacob Daniels stared him down like a ghost who didn't blink. Every hallway hummed with the replay. Every locker whispered the same line, "You done?" And Martin? Oh, his ego was on life support. He slammed lockers, barked at his crew, laughed louder than usual, but everyone could see it. He was cracking. Jacob, meanwhile, walked calm as ever. Backpack slung loose, notebook in hand, not a care in the world. And that's what made it worse. Because bullies can survive a punch, but they can't survive losing the crowd. By afternoon, it boiled over. Word spread like wildfire. Martin and Jacob were facing off in the gym. Within minutes, the bleachers filled. The air buzzed with restless energy, the kind you feel before thunder strikes. Martin paced like a caged animal, fists clenched, muttering insults. "You think you're better than me? Some coffee-colored freak who thinks silence makes him tough?" His voice cracked, but the crowd was eating it up. Jacob dropped his bag at the sideline, calm as ever. His voice was steady. "I don't have to think it." That was it. Martin lunged. Wild, sloppy swings, more rage than skill. Jacob moved like water. Sidestep, redirect, control. Gasps erupted as Jacob caught Martin's wrist mid-swing. A twist, sharp and precise, then snap. The sound echoed through the gym. Martin crumpled, clutching his hand, face twisted in pain. Silence. The so-called king was on his knees. His crew? They backed away like scared puppies. The reign of Martin Pike ended right there, broken fingers and all. But Jacob didn't gloat, didn't brag. He just looked at Rowan in the crowd and gave the smallest nod, as if to say, "You don't have to be scared anymore." The principal stormed in, furious, suspending Jacob on the spot. But everyone knew the truth. Jacob didn't lose. He won without needing the crown. Justice wasn't loud. It was calm. It was controlled. It was Jacob. And maybe that's the real story here. Sometimes silence is the loudest victory of all. If you've ever seen a bully finally get what they deserve, drop a comment below, because this was one of those moments you'll never forget.